Okay, Mary Jo got it. Well, it's about 5 after. I think we probably ought to start. Let me share my screen, and I've got a couple of charts to show. Can anybody? Oh, okay. Somebody, I just got signed out. I don't know what that was about.
You're still
Oh, you're still there.
Still on though.
Yeah, I'm still in there. I got a message that said signed out.
So much for the effectiveness of the course.
Yeah, really.
No,
So you
all I
can
mean-
still hear me, right?
No, hey,
Yes.
Scott, what that means is that somebody else who has the password for what's known as the account, somebody else is logged in.
Okay.
It's not me. I'm logged in as David Wood. So there's probably,
Yeah.
so the only thing I can think of is that Gene may have inadvertently logged in to the account trying to get the video from the general meeting.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of one of those things we need to work out, because with a single managerial account, every time somebody logs into it, you don't go away, but somebody else tends to jump into the thing.
Well, that's weird. So I just admitted 2 more people,
Mhm.
and I've got a message here. Are you seeing my screen, by the
Yes.
way?
Oh, yeah,
Does it say first 2021
it does.
AISIG meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. Okay, so let me see if I can make a change. So you see the introduction chart?
Yep.
I thought what we would do first is kind of, since there are probably quite a few people who aren't total regulars in AISIG, that we'd give them a chance to introduce themselves and tell us who they are. And there's no requirement to do it, but I'd like to get. What I have to say is that I'm, this social distancing to me is getting to be real old, and I'm tired of we're pretty isolated because of the COVID and some other things, and so I kind of crave social interaction. So getting to meet some new people and talk to them is a treat for me. So I thought I'd just let anybody who wanted to kind of introduce themselves and tell me whatever you want to tell us. So I'll stop my share and let's see if there's anybody who wants to speak up.
So I suggest that you call out the people and go through it. Otherwise, we may all talk at once.
Okay, that's a good idea. There's Dorothy and AC are up. You want to introduce yourself, AC? Go ahead.
Yes, to unmute themselves. Scott, in the controls,
No, I
In
was
the
hitting
meeting
the space bar, but it wasn't killing the mute. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, AC Wood, and he's complaining about being, Scott's complaining about being isolated. Well, we're way up here in Ramona on 11 acres. And I'm retired. I retired at the age of 76, and we've been up on the hill here 30 years. And anybody who wants to set up and come up here and use the dark skies, they're welcome to come up anytime. As Ken knows, and a few other people have been up here. And because Carl lives up about 5 miles east of me, he gets better weather than I do, unfortunately. And I'm a double E and a master's degree in computer science, and I flew an airplane for 31 years for a company. And I built 2 airplanes and a house. What else you want to know?
Okay, well, actually, I'm the next on the list. And what can I say about me? I've been doing this. This is the 3rd year I've been doing this. And my background is in engineering. I'm a PhD, and I went to school a lot and worked for a bunch of aerospace companies, and have been doing amateur astronomy for 10, 15 years. And have a little roll-off roof in my roll-off observatory in my backyard. And I'm also into some of the sciencey things like watching exoplanets and doing speckle imaging. So that's kind of my background. Delmar, do you want to say something?
Sure. I got started through AC, brought one of his cameras and put it on my telescope, and then I got transferred to Seattle. And I've been in Seattle for the last year, and I've seen the sky 4 or 5 times. So I'm going to have to go east of the mountains here to get some decent viewing, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So I enjoy the group because it gives me all sorts of new information, because I'm an absolute newbie at doing astrophotography.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, I'm Ken Searcy. I'm an engineer too. It seems like that's the common thread. Thank God we aren't scientists. We'd never get anything done. But I've been active in astronomy for a good while, doing a lot of outreach. When it comes to imaging, I like to do 2 separate things, 2 separate and, equal. One's more fun than the other. Regular deep sky imaging with an NP101 and a one-shot color ZWO camera. And I really like to go to TDS and over to ACs, because it's a lot less to drive AC than going to TDS, especially when you're on the return trip and you're just so generous and hospitable. And the sky's really pretty good. But in addition to that, and Ed Rumsey and I normally team up to do that, and we split the heavy lifting. I like to do wide field skyscapes with a camera lens and either a DSLR, which is a little bit more convenient, or that same ZWO CMOS one-shot color camera that's cooled, and that's an advantage to you, particularly in the summer. I think that's about all.
Okay.
Live
Okay.
in San Diego, Scripps Ranch. What else? I think that's it.
Okay. Hey, Frank, you want to say something?
There.
At the mute button. There he goes.
Yeah, there we go. I found it. Can I share my screen?
Sure. We've got apparently 21 members here, so we want to go through.
Okay, I can do
Give
it 2
people
minutes.
a chance to show stuff a little bit later, but I'd like to go through the introductions just quickly.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead, share your screen.
Okay, I'm just gonna do I have to go find the screen there. And okay, I have to go find the button that says I've selected the screen, and
Down at the bottom, Frank.
yeah, evidently the button is hidden. I got too many buttons. Oh, here it is, share. Okay, yeah,
There you go.
can you see? There's my observatory there.
Yeah.
And what I've been trying to do is with a wide field photography, photometry with the FSQ 106, and also spectroscopy. And a new target of interest is T Corona Borealis. I'm going to start looking at that when it comes into a little better view shortly. And it exploded in 1866. And then 80 years later, it exploded again, 1946. And it's going to explode again in 2023, we think. So it's coming up soon. And it's a big mystery. Nobody knows why it explodes, because once it explodes once, it's going to explode again in a couple months afterwards with even bigger explosion. So we have mysteries and nobody can explain it. Nobody knows why. So we now have a chance to go get more data on this and try to figure out what's going on. So that's one of my new adventures.
Okay. John?
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I retired in 2018, mechanical engineer, optical engineer, worked up in Silicon Valley for 38 years, and then retired and moved down to Cardiff, which is always cloudy at night, but let's see. I joined this club in 1977, and then when I was in high school and went away to college and never got back to astronomy. And so in the last couple of years, I've been trying to get back into it. I've been, this last year, held up. I got a cancer diagnosis from multiple myeloma. And so I've had a bone marrow transplant this year. And now I'm in maintenance treatment, and hopefully gonna do okay with that. But I attend this group because I'd like to learn about astrophotography. I've never done it, except for taking green flash photographs from my parents' house when I was a kid. So anyway, hopefully I can learn from you guys and eventually get the equipment I need to do the astrophotography.
Yeah, great. Gary? Gary Hawkins?
Yep, hold up. Yeah, I'm mute. So this is the first time I've attended the meeting. I thought I'd better attend the meeting because I think I'm doing the presentation next. So I am not really an astrophotographer. I got into astronomy about 2 years ago on the public outreach side, primarily with working with Dave Decker and Dennis and folks like that. I do EAA, which is what the talk next month is on. So electronically assisted astronomy. For some people, that's kind of astrophotography light, but it's basically real-time visual viewing with cameras rather than eyepieces. We've been pretty successful this year in going public on the outreach through SDAA and also through my own private channel. We've done a number of live streams now, probably 7 or 8, and we've had as many as over 1,000 people attend one of them, which was kind of cool. That was when we did the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction from Alpine, which was kind of cool. My other interest is starting to be in photometry. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about next week. So I was kind of glad to hear that Frank, I think, said he was into photometry. I'm going to talk a little bit about the transition from EAA to photometry, because that's actually been a relatively easy step with the existing equipment that I use. So I'm an engineer as well, also a radio ham. I have a PhD in satellite communications. Not that I ever used that, but that came from the UK. So that's me.
Interesting. Yeah, there's several of us doing some photometry. I am as well with the exoplanets. So
oh,
happy
cool.
to talk about that. Yeah.
Hey, Scott, just real quick, you've got people in the waiting room.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
If you're going to host this thing, better stay on top of that, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so actually I'm doing this voice foundation course. So I'm going to hop off at 8 o'clock because we're on, I think, lesson 3 or 4 for the exoplanet thing. So that's pretty quite interesting.
Cool. We'll talk about that offline. Paul, go ahead. Paul Lakin.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Paul Lakin. I'm not an engineer. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I've been a biotech entrepreneur, started a series of companies in San Diego, which went public and got sold. And about 3 months ago, I retired after doing that for about 35 years. So really excited about that and enjoying it. I got back into astronomy. I used to kind of look through the telescope and did a little bit of photography maybe 10 years ago. And about a year ago, I got back into it and have piled on with the equipment and such. And so I'm enjoying it, still learning. Really happy to learn from some of the really experienced hands in this room. Thanks.
Mike.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Mike.
Good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. Cool to see. Let's see, I have been an imager for, I don't know, at least a decade or so, a struggling, recovering imager. I do not have an engineering background and I am not a PhD, so I am definitely the dumb guy in this room, actually retired from the fire department. But despite that, I like to try imaging, which maybe that makes it even harder. As part of the sickness, I built an observatory out at TDS because I like to make things complex. Since the group does not allow power on 24/7, I put solar panels up and batteries. So if you think it's fun to run an observatory, it's even more fun to do it off the grid. But it is a pretty cool opportunity to be able to slide the roof open when weather permits. So kind of fun, get to take advantage of the sky out there. I've bounced between a few different refractors and I'm struggling with a compound telescope now. I'm more of a pretty picture guy, but I do like some of the same stuff Scott does, the imaging of exoplanets. In fact, I'm going to bail out of here about 8 to go to another Zoom for that stuff. So sorry. And one quick plug. How much time do I have left on the clock, Scott?
As long as you want.
Oh, don't tell me that. I won't share my screen, but I am going to tease you because we are coming up on the banquet and there is a ton of good imaging gear that we are going to be selling. Amazing telescopes, some good cameras. I know we're not a visual bunch, but you probably started out as a visual observer and maybe on occasion you do want to look through it. We've got a few ethos and even a Nagler eyepiece that we are going to be raffling and sweepstaking and auctioning off. So that information is going out shortly. So please stay tuned, take a look at that. And even if you don't attend the banquet, you can buy tickets and participate in the auction and hopefully you'll get a good steal.
Okay, cool. Michael.
All right, yeah, Michael Vandervorst. I'm not an engineer either. In fact, I have a roll-off roof observatory at TDS, and I was showing it to Ed Rumsey with the wires and stuff, and he said, "You clearly are not an engineer." So, my background's in mathematics and physics. I like terrestrial photography. I've done a lot of night sky stuff with that. I've done some guided photography with taking some pretty cool Milky Way stuff with a just a DSLR, and then I like shooting kind of wide with my observatory. I've got about a 2-degree field of view, and lately I've been trying to go deep. Every object I spend about a month on an object. Sometimes it takes 2-3 months, and I get 30 to 40 hours of data in the seven filters and see what I can do with it. Some of it's kind of dim and it's hard to deal with, and some of it's pretty nice. So anyway, that's what I do.
Great. Greg?
Yeah, so I have been dabbling into the in and out of astronomy for probably the past 12 years. I've about 4 years ago, I got some good astro pictures without any help, and I can't seem to replicate it. I went out and bought a 80 millimeter triplet and just got back into it, dusted everything off. So I'm trying to get back into it and figure out what's going on. Yeah, I'm an engineer like everybody else, sales engineer, retired out here in Carlsbad, and trying to figure out how to either do something in the backyard or maybe have to go into the inland areas. But that's kind of what I've been dabbling with here in the past few months. So
Great. Delmar. Hey, Delmar. You want it? You can pass if you want. You're still muted. Whoop, where did
You might
Delmar
have to do
go?
it for him.
Oh, okay. You have to do it for him?
No, you might. You can go over to controls and unmute him.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I've already spoken. So
Oh, okay. Dave, why don't you say something?
Why, you haven't heard enough of me already? Somebody threw a telescope in my hands about 1999, and then somebody else said you ought to get a bigger telescope right around 2000, and then some other meathead in the club says you ought to try astrophotography, in which case my 12-inch meat almost became a flower pot. So I've been playing this imaging game since about 2001, 2002. I take care of the tarot-scope. I manage the files and all that good stuff. So if you guys want an object imaged at tarot, send email to tarot@sda.org and I'll figure out if it'll work or not.
Yeah. Yeah, tarot is a whole nother subject. We could spend a lot of time on tarot, but that'd be another night. Hero, you want to say something? We're just going through around the group and introducing everybody.
Hi, my name is Hiro. I think I'm also I'm a microscope engineer at the USSD, and then these days I started putting a 280mm refractor with one monochrome camera and one color camera. Try to get the two cameras together so to getting more long exposure. And I think end of last year, I finally start to work with it. So I just get back to the processing world now.
Okay. Let's see, we did Michael. How about Larry Godsey? We did you too, didn't we? But not Jose.
Well, you haven't done me quite.
Oh, I'm
yet.
sorry.
I'm not
Go
sure what
ahead.
happened. I'm not sure what happened to my picture, but who knows? I retired about 20 years ago from Bell Laboratories, and my photography was an OM1 camera using 35mm film, spending hours at a time turning a little dial, trying to keep things lined up on a barn door. I've also been director of the Oregon Star Party, and kind of like Delmar, I'm kind of up here in the cloudy area in Oregon, little town south of Portland. So yeah, there's not much in the way of clear, dark skies here, except we had one real nice one the other night. But I'm planning on moving to California, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting down into dark skies and getting out to TDS and finally getting a chance to get back into astronomy and stuff. I've got a couple of fairly good small scopes, but just received an EV scope. So I'm kind of looking forward to what I can do with that, since in my old age, I'm getting a little bit lazy. But anyway, I'm looking forward to getting to California so I can kind of meet everybody and get back into doing something under dark skies.
Larry, what little city are you in?
I'm in West Lynn, Oregon.
Okay.
I'm about 20 miles south of Portland.
Okay, I know the area. I spent a whole bunch of time putting together a television station in Silverton. At least at one point in time was broadcasting out of Silverton.
Yeah, I'm not quite that far south. I'm kind of more towards Wilsonville. I'm up on a hill, have a wonderful view of downtown Portland. But I also get Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Adams. So there is an advantage to where I'm at.
Is Channel 22 still on the air?
Well, if I can get the unmuted. No, I don't believe it is. I'm actually using an off the air, and I don't get 22 here.
Yeah, the television station was, get this, KECH, Catch 22.
I like that. Well,
Jose.
one of these days, I'll figure out what's wrong with my camera.
Jose, do you want to say something?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. I attended the 1991 solar eclipse in Baja years ago, and that's what took me over the edge and decided astronomy was going to be my hobby. Through the years, I've collected several astronomical equipment, telescopes. I built my own Dob, and been doing mostly outreach since '95. And now, dabbling into photography and trying to learn the new PixInsight, which I'm kind of slowly getting into. But so yeah, looking forward to hearing everybody's ideas on this, just like everybody else, I guess.
Right. Okay.
And I'm retiring Friday. Yay.
Wow. Young guy like you, huh?
Oh yeah, right.
John Weigel, do you want to say something?
Yeah, my name's Sean Weigel. Follow the trend. I'm a retired engineer, retired a couple of years ago. I've done a lot of terrestrial photography, and then kind of got into some night sky stuff, and then kind of got a guider to put my camera on, and then you know how it goes. Next thing you know, well, I need an EQ mount and a cooled camera. So this past summer, kind of got those, and then been dabbling with that. Live in Scripps Ranch, so I've been doing stuff out of my backyard, narrowband, and having some success. Now I'm trying to figure out how to process everything. So kind of wanted to pick everybody's brain and learn and improve.
Okay, cool. Peter.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you now.
Hi.
What's your last name, Peter?
Peter Lee. Sorry, when I logged in.
Yeah,
I just got
no
one
problem.
right. I didn't get a chance to put in my last name.
Okay.
I lead a small group of R&D medical informaticians at Kaiser, so that's my daytime job. But I've had that passion for astronomy for, I don't know, since elementary school, and made a Dobsonian 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And because of the COVID, I finally bit the bullet and bought a real telescope. And then I started to thinking about what can I do with it. So that's how I joined SDAA latter half of last year, and now getting into a little bit into astrophotography, realizing there's a whole new world of things out there
Yeah,
to explore.
a lot of stuff to do.
Yep.
Alan Peterson.
Yes. Hello. Alan Peterson, also recently retired from a couple of years ago, software engineer at SAIC. And when I retired, I wanted to look for some hobbies, something to keep me busy. So I got into photography, got a camera, and started getting some lenses, got some books and saying, this is what you should do. Give you some ideas and some pictures to take. And one of them was shooting the Milky Way, which I still haven't really seen out here yet. I'm at Mount Helix area, but I was looking on the internet for dark sky areas, and one was Tierra del Sol. So I looked up Tierra del Sol, realized it was associated with this astronomy club. So I joined the club to get access to Tierra del Sol. Went there during the day. I haven't been there at night yet. So, but it's much better to see the skies there than here where I am right now.
Yeah.
So I am shooting just a DSLR with my tripod and some long exposure. It's kind of fun just playing around with it. It's kind of difficult trying to find some of these objects, just kind of looking at one of those planispheres and with your iPhone and just trying to figure out, well, where is that Andromeda galaxy at? And you're kind of going around, and then after you've developed it, you say, no, I don't think that's it. So it's been kind of a learning experience, and maybe I just need to get some more equipment to kind of figure out where to point my cameras at. One thing about, it's good to see Gary Hawkins here. I attended virtually the Mount Helix event where he was shooting some stars and galaxies. That was a lot of fun. He did a really good job on that. So
Good.
that's it.
He's going to entertain us next month. So, Carl Weber, you want to chime in?
Okay. So you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm an old timer for this group and stuff. I've been around this club since like 1969, 68, somewhere through there, before I could drive. So I've been in this club a long time.
Wow.
And I got big into photography in the early 90s. And I was doing 6x7 cooled photography and stuff. So, and then I transitioned to this other stuff now, this CMOS. So I have to full disclosure that I have to take responsibility for this poor weather because I got a new camera. So that's all my fault. But I actually wore out my other camera, my ZWO 1600. I actually wore it out and the cooler died. So I got sent back to China and there's no ETA one and new one's coming back. So I had to go buy another camera. But I have my own observatory at the house here in Ramona, and it's fully remote controlled, so I don't even go outside anymore. I just do everything from the office. So that gives you the opportunity to put a lot of exposure time on things, which is really, really nice. So I was just looking on AstroBin and stuff. They keep track of how much time you put in there. So I've got 85.25 days exposure time just for photos that I had posted on there. And that doesn't count all the ones on the hard drive that I haven't posted. So I was kind of proud of that. But anyway, that's it. Oh yeah, I'm not an engineer. I'm a poor, dumb, retired canine cop. So anyway,
Okay.
that's it.
I'm going to take a little 2-minute diversion here. You guys can entertain yourselves for a second. And I'll be right back.
So
Looks
what's
like
your
it's Ms. Lynch's turn to talk.
Anita, you want to say what you're doing here and what your interests are? Apparently not.
So Carl, what's your current imaging target, or what's of interest right now?
I like doing the crazy things, you know, the things that are really faint, like HFG1. So I like doing those kind of planetaries, this and that. But I mean, even with like pushing 50 plus hours, it still barely shows. You know, and then I was having such bad withdrawal pains because I couldn't image since the camera was gone. It was like killing me because the winter sky is going away. And so that's why I had to break down by the other one. But yeah, I like doing the weird stuff. You know, it's like I already did the easy stuff, so now I'm trying to do the hard stuff. So I'm doing okay.
Carl, I think you're going to have to reveal what camera you bought, because
it's the same one. It's the ASI 1600 Pro.
Okay.
The monochrome. But the thing is, that's kind of like about it is it's actually gets colder than my other 1600, because the old one only got to -22, and this one here has actually gotten down to -37.5. So when I did use it,
I've got an ASI 1600, the MC Pro one-shot color, but I've been looking at the specs for that new 2600, and they're really pretty good because I don't have a huge well depth of the 1600, and the thing's coming out with great reviews. I think if I buy it, I'll have to move out into the backyard.
Yeah, you know, I actually looked at that too, but then I would have to buy whole new filter sets, and I just got these chroma filters and stuff this last summer, so I already put a big investment on those and everything. So I didn't want to start over with a larger set for that camera.
Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's see, Onita Lynch, would you like to introduce yourself?
She doesn't have a microphone, Scott.
Oh, no microphone. Then I guess we'll skip her. Sorry. Shibaha. Bahi.
Oh, hey guys, this is Shibaji. Hey, I'm a relative newcomer to this group. I just sort of joined last year. I am an engineer by profession. I am working in Samsung in the mobile phone chip development business. I have been shooting with a DSLR and a telephoto lens with a EQ mount, and I had a couple of trips to the Anza Borrego area, and that sort of got me hooked. So now I am focusing onto a refractor with a color CMOS camera and getting some good images. So I'm trying to learn PixInsight as well. And I joined this group to sort of learn more. I think as I am delving more and more, there's so many technical things. And I'm really curious to learn how to sort of calculate the exposure lengths, what gain and offset to use, and then maybe in post-process, what tricks to do and so on. So, thank you so much.
Okay. And our last person is Hans Wiesenfarth. Hans, would you like to chime in? Hello, Hans. Okay, no rules that says you have to talk, so that's just fine. So why don't we move on to my next topic here? I'll share my screen again. I think this was very useful and entertaining to me anyway, to hear where everybody's coming from, and I certainly appreciate the interaction. But let me see if I can share my screen. You guys see it? So we do a little bit of communication here. There's certainly the Zoom meetings every fourth Wednesday. There's the SDAA Groups IO subgroup, AISIG subgroup, and that's a good way to communicate. Also, what I've been doing is keeping an email list of individuals who are members of the group, so that so we can communicate with each other without involving the whole AISIG subgroup, I guess is my motivation. And this is the list. If this is the first half of the list, the next slide is the second half. And basically, if you're not on the list and you'd like to be, then why don't you just in the chat function of Zoom, if you can just write down your email and information, then I'll add you to the list. And if there's one, see if I can remember who it is. There's one, Cool Jazz, I think is the one that bounces every week, every time I send out an email. And I'm not sure who Cool Jazz is. So if you're Cool Jazz, then you need to kind of update or maybe I've misspelled your name or something, I don't know. Anyway, so I'd like to keep the email list going, and if you want to get added to it or subtracted from it, let me know. You could either actually email me, that works too, or just write it in the chat function of Zoom and I'll add it to the email list. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, first of all, we've got, I think, several people who are going to discuss images that they've done or other aspects of astrophotography in a few minutes. But I wanted to go over what the AISIG group ought to emphasize and kind of get people's opinion as to what it is or what we should be doing. So there's a lot of topics that we could discuss and make the focus of these meetings. I guess I could go through them one at a time and see what people think. It doesn't sound to me, first of all, it doesn't sound to me like a lot of the people in this group anyway are really into the absolute basics. Everybody seems to at least understand what astro imaging's about, and a lot of you are working on some of the software like PixInsight. How many people in the group would feel that we ought to be emphasizing some of the basics of astro imaging, or is that something that most of us are already well aware of? Anybody have a comment on that?
So this is Greg here. I think one of the challenges that as I've been trying to delve into this is there's so many opinions and so many options, but how do you start with the basics to get good success in terms of some of the basic images, the Astronomy and some of the others, deep sky images, nebulas, and then going, from there. Everybody's got to see different opinions, different options, tracking, not tracking, things like that. That's kind of where I'm coming from is, I'm a DSLR guy. There's a lot of people using the other cameras and just kind of figuring out what makes sense without busting the budget.
Yeah. Well, I think I ought to be thinking about how to get that across to the I'd call it a subgroup of the group that is still trying to understand some of the things that the guys that have been doing it for a while have already figured out, and I'll try to do that. In group member presentations, that's basically where one of us takes an evening or a good part of an evening to show things, and I think that's a real positive thing to do. And as I said before, in next month, we're going to have a presentation from Greg, right? On electronic aided astronomy, and that should be fun. Does anybody have any suggestions for other such topics, things that we might discuss? How about PixInsight? We over the last couple of years, we've had some real experts on PixInsight come and present to us. Before COVID, we used to do that at Mission Trails, but it's actually easier to get experts to come and talk about it since this is just since they don't have to travel very far to do a Zoom. So do people think that PixInsight is a good idea? They have sessions dedicated to how do you learn PixInsight, or you think there's enough information out there already about PixInsight that that we don't really need to have specialized people teaching us how to do it?
Scott, just one thing that when I was hosting AISIG stuff at the down at Mission Trails, we did a couple of things called, I nicknamed them Fix Your Pix, which was somebody would come along with an image that they were having problems with, and we'd all sit around and put it up on the big screen, and we could take various different software platforms, but basically it was, hey, I'm having problems doing this portion of PixInsight or Photoshop or something. And it was more along the lines of, how do I get past this issue? So that Fix Your Pix thing turned out to be pretty popular.
you think we could do that in
Oh, yeah.
our
Sure,
Zoom
we
session?
can, because you can share screens, you can, it'd be fairly easy for someone to post up, you know, a processed or something, one of the PixInsight or whatever you're using to go through and kind of basically look at a problem. Hey, I'm having problems making my stars big, or having problems making my stars small. How do I make them smaller?
Yeah.
So something like that would probably, I think I've always run into a lot of people that get to a point with inside of PixInsight or whatever they're happen to using, you know, how do I make a mask? What's the best mask to use for making my star smaller, things like that.
Yeah. So an idea might be to take one of the monthly meetings and solicit a couple of problems or issues that people would like to talk about, and then bring those up and see how the group would solve them, or how they would, what their suggestions are for dealing with that, whatever that particular issue is.
Right, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, the last time I did it with Jeff Herman was live and I was on the other side, and it was and Ross Salinger had some issues with his pictures, and it was, and we said, hey, what's the way to do this? Well, Jeff had one way, I had another. So it's not just one way or the highway. There's various different ways to do it, and coming at it with two different directions or solving a problem from two different directions oftentimes works pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think you could actually, you know, kind of build a session around that.
I'll throw something in there as well. The analogy on the EAA side is SharpCat. That's our sort of de facto tool for image gathering and real-time processing. The thing that we've found particularly useful, I do a lot of work on the Cloudy Nights forum in the EAA section there. Video demonstrations of those platforms are invaluable to people. They like to see how the tool is being used. I would imagine it's the same with PixInsight, which I think is pretty much one of the de facto tools on the processing side, right? The other thing you might want to try as well, we're beginning to get a good number of subscribers on our YouTube channel. I think we're up to about 500 now. If any of you guys are interested in doing like a Zoom session that you then stream out to YouTube so it could then be seen for later viewing on something like that, that I think would be a really valuable addition to the SDAA YouTube channel as well.
Okay, cool. When I wrote this down, real-time hands-on sessions, what I was talking about is getting together at a mutual location to do things in the evening. That's a little hard with the COVID situation as it is. But I think when that starts to clear up, I think that would be a great thing to do to, you know, many of us have portable equipment that we can take to a location and kind of get together as a group and do some imaging, even going as far as TDS. But I suppose that's not going to really happen until the COVID situation improves quite a bit, or we all get vaccinated, which I think is coming pretty soon. Then there's education and outreach. Of course, we have an outreach program, and that's a kind of a separate topic, but it could be a part of the AISIG program as well. And foreground astro imaging is something that Ken Searcy does. I'm curious if there are other people in the group that are into that sort of astrophotography, or whether are all kind of deep sky guys. How many like to do foreground astrophotography as well as deep sky?
Me.
Is that Ken?
I'm the only one.
Well, I really think that's an overlooked aspect of this, and I think maybe we should try to get a little bit more focus on that in our meetings. And I'm not sure if everybody knows what TARO is, but TARO is the Terry Arnold Robotic Observatory up at TDS. And Dave Wood and I and Jeff Herman and some others have worked to get that to be an operational capability. And it's a very, very nice telescope that we operate from San Diego. And Dave's explained it in a meeting last year. And its what primary purpose is astrophotography. So we should be, I think, more involved in it as a group and exploiting that capability whenever we can. And Dave, maybe you can, I don't know whether in this meeting, but in one of the meetings, I think we ought to just go over how it's working and how to use TARO to develop really deep and extremely excellent Aster images.
Yeah, that'd be pretty straightforward to do. The system itself is completely automated with ACP. There's nothing to do. You enter in what it is you want to do, and thanks to Jeff Herman, who is a software writer extraordinaire, it basically goes off and does it on its own. There's a piece of software built into the system called the dispatcher, and Jeff and I have worked on how the dispatcher takes and prioritizes objects. We can have multiple objects running simultaneously, along with exoplanets. It's ACP is the only thing that'll actually blend exoplanet work with deep sky photography on the same night, if you're so inclined. It's pretty straightforward. There's, like I said, Jeff has done an amazing job with the scripts. I only have to run up on a panic flight to a TDS at 2 in the morning once or twice a year now, where it used to be once or twice a month. Our remote observatory only means that it's less than an hour away, so you can go fix it when it stops running. But it's pretty straightforward. The scope itself is the last of the deep sky instruments, 14.5 RCs that was built in Florida. It has quartz substrates in it, so it's extremely temperature stable. Images at 2,500 millimeters, roughly 2,550, and it tends to run fairly well. It's been down for a couple of months due to battery issues. This summer was fairly bad for outages at TDS, and the battery systems and the UPS finally had enough and completely shut off. But it's back up and running. It'd be running tonight, except there's some clouds up there. But main thing is that we can use it for various long-term projects. We tend to point it at something and keep it there for 30 to 40 hours. And we'll blend, and we can blend various different times of the year. We can blend different objects in different portions of the sky. So it works fairly well. So we can go back and look at how it might be applicable to what people want to do as far as research or anything like that.
Yeah, and I really want to see it utilized by this group and get it fully loaded up with interesting stuff to do. So that's cool. Then the next couple of topics are kind of science oriented. I do exoplanets, and I've been doing some Speckle imaging, and Frank Parks does spectroscopy. I think those are interesting things that anyone in this group could get really interested and involved in.
I don't know what Speckle Imaging is.
What it is? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so Speckle Imaging is really basically very short exposure photography to freeze the atmosphere so that you can, using some rather, using some math and statistics, establish certain things about stars, like the location, the separation and angle between a double star. That's one of the major purposes. It's very closely related to planetary imaging. it's a little bit different because it is fast. The imaging is fast enough that the atmosphere is frozen during the exposure time. But you take up to say 1,000 images of maybe 30 milliseconds each, and then statistically analyze them to determine things of science value, like the separation between a pair of stars, a binary pair of stars. So that's basically what it is. And we have the equipment to do it. Just especially the new CMOS cameras are very well suited to speckle imaging. So we've got the equipment to do it. It's only a question of whether you're interested in doing it. And I could give a little talk on that and also on exoplanets sometime during the year. So, and Frank Parks is doing spectroscopy. And Frank, you still there? Hello, Frank. Well, anyway, he gave a talk, I think it was not last year, but the year before. Oh, there he is. You want to say a little bit about how your status in spectroscopy and
I try sharing my screen again?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so share screen. Okay, I think somebody else is still sharing.
I don't see that.
It says I cannot start.
Scott, you need to nuke yourself.
Oh, am I sharing? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Excuse me. There we go.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to try. Let me see if I can find screen one. Well, I guess I'll start with this one. Okay, so there's, can you see my observatory?
Not yet.
No.
Frank Parks has started screen sharing.
Okay. It says I'm screen sharing there.
Yeah, you had your observatory before. I don't know what's different.
Okay. It says I am sharing right now.
But you're sharing a blank screen there, Frank.
I think you need to maybe pick a screen and then hit share.
Okay. So I'll try sharing it something different then.
Share an application.
There you go. Now you got it.
Okay, so that's my observatory. With the FSQ 106 for photometry and astrophotography, and the Newtonian 200 millimeter f5. So I have a LISA spectrometer on there. And for photometry, I have the FLI camera, very wide field camera on there. And so we can do, okay, there. Yeah, I think I've showed you some of these things before. And then I have the LISA spectrometer on the Newtonian there. And I will try, maybe show you an example of a symbiotic star. And let me try showing you some real data here. So I will share the screen and see if it'll give me a choice. Oh, well, here we go. Okay, and now, okay, can you see my spectrum?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a symbiotic star that was taken recently, well, in December, and it has a huge hydrogen alpha line on there. And this is a red dwarf system. This is Z Andromeda, ZN. It's the prototype star for the symbiotic type of stars with a red giant star and a white dwarf orbiting around each other. And the white dwarf is accreting matter. I mean, the matter is accreting around the white dwarf. So essentially, this little white dwarf is eating the red giant star, and it's going to get so big it will explode. And before that, we can, because they get greedy and periodically explode there. And so we can learn a lot about the mechanics of these systems by doing chemical analysis. So my LISA spectrometer goes on the order of 3,700 angstroms up to around 8,000 angstroms there. So you can see the classic Balmer lines with the hydrogen beta and the helium and the variety of the hydrogen lines. But what makes this star different and peculiar is it has helium-2 and helium-1 being emitted, and it has some of the classic iron lines. So that's something interesting. And with enough resolution, you can measure velocities of the stars. And let me show you one more thing. And I'll show you. Okay, so this is my mysterious star here. Can you see the slide with T Corona Borealis there?
Yep.
Okay, that shows up. And in 1866, this star exploded, and it was like a magnitude 2 or so, very bright. And 80 years later, in 1946, it exploded again. And before it exploded in 1946, we noted an increase in brightness of at least 1 magnitude several years before it exploded. And then in 1946, after it exploded once, it exploded again months again. I don't know of other stars that explode twice in a row right after each other, months apart. And the second explosion in 1946 was even of more energy than the first explosion. And then we went back and looked at data from 1866 and figured out that star exploded twice also in 1866. And people didn't know it because they weren't looking for it. And so now T Corona Borealis is showing those that jump in magnitude that indicates it's going to explode again. And before it exploded 80 years after another, and we're approaching the 80-year time frame, but some of the signatures there are indicating it may explode a little bit earlier there and go up to like magnitude 2 again. And this is a big mystery because the professionals don't know why it does this. And it's so bright that the professional astronomers don't have the equipment to study it in detail. So they're relying on amateurs to look at this star, say from the AAVSO, collecting data in different bands, and spectroscopists to collect data on this, and build a database and do the chemical analysis to try to figure out what's going on, because this is a real mystery. So that's one of the adventures I have coming ahead.
Great. Yeah, so I think we, over the year, we ought to try to keep people up to date on those topics, spectroscopy, exoplanets, TAROs, Speckle Imaging. I think those are of general interest, and I'm going to try to make that part interesting too. Let me share my screen again. And maybe I can, you see last year's meetings. I just thought I'd quickly go over what we did last year. We had a meeting pretty much like this at Mission Trails last year to plan what we're doing last year. Then I was off on vacation, and Dave talked about tarot for a session in February. Then the COVID hit, and I don't think we did anything in March. If we did, I sure don't remember it or have any record of it. I think we were shocked by what was going on, and Mission Trails closed, so we did nothing. Then in April, Stu Foreman did Pix Insight for us in a good session. In May, we had 5 members show how they process specific images. Ken Cersei and I talked about our setups and how we do astrophotography in my backyard, and Ken talked about context astrophotography. In July, we talked about what ASCOM is and how it works. Jeff Beach talked about his experiences at Maui when he lived there as a young man. And Steve explained the Stellina Smart Telescope to us. That was kind of interesting. I don't think anybody's bought one yet, but it's quite an instrument. And then we did a group effort with the Pelican Nebula in September, and Jason Wang explained how he does exoplanet images with really big telescopes. And in November, Mike Chashin showed us his observatory at TDS. So anyway, I'm certainly looking for suggestions for meetings and topics this year and speakers. And so far we filled in February, and I will be, does anybody right now have a topic that they would like to schedule for one of the months past February this year? 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway,
Actually, I would just say I really enjoyed I think I suggested it, so maybe it's self-fulfilling, but I really enjoyed when we all picked the same target and then shared all the images and all, because I think it was really interesting to see the differences and hear how people did it and how they got it.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and I think that will be one of the monthly topics. So that only leaves us about another 7 months to deal with to find topics for. So I'm certainly open to any suggestions that people have as we move along through the year, and just let me know, and I'll probably be pestering some of you to do things. So that's what the situation is now. I guess at this point, what I asked in a couple of the emails was if a couple of people in the group had something that they'd like to show. And so the rest of the meeting is basically doing that, if in fact people have some things they want to share. I took some pictures of the California Nebula. Maybe I should go first since I popped up the slide anyway. And I did that from my backyard here in Poway. I got 7 hours of H alpha and 4 hours of S2. This O3 signal in the California Nebula is really pretty weak. And so I basically just didn't waste my time taking its picture. And to enhance the S2, I binned it 2 by 2. And then after pre-processing, I resampled it out to be consistent with the H alpha. And I have to say that, you know, the field of view that I have with this instrument was only, well, it's over in a degree, but it certainly doesn't cover the whole thing. And had I had more time, I'd love to have tried a mosaic, but I didn't really think that it was that I was going to get the opportunity to spend the appropriate amount of time to take basically a set of probably 4 or 5 images, 4 or 6 images of the nebula. Anyway, so I just got a single snapshot of it. And the equipment is this Explore Scientific 8-inch Newtonian, which is really nice because it's, you know, f3.8, which gives you a pretty wide field of view. Newtonians are pretty fussy about collimation, and they kind of easily go out, so you have to kind of watch that. And I've got an Ioptron CEM60 underneath it. Actually, I have 2 of those. I've got another one. This one's out in my shed in the backyard, and I have another one that sits on the deck. And with one, I can, between the 2 of them, I can cover a lot more sky in between all the trees in our backyard. So I kind of switch off between doing things on the deck and in the roll-off roof observatory. And this SBI G8300 or 8300 is really a I've had that for over 10 years. You can see it's pretty dusty. I should have dusted it off before I took its picture. And it's 8-position filter wheel. So that's the equipment I used. And basically, you know, I took the 7 hours of H alpha and 4 hours of S2 plus the darks, flats, and biases, and used the batch pre-processing function in PI with cosmetic correction. And you have to, can you see that pointer? Does the pointer show up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to create a process, a cosmetic correction pre-process that feeds into batch pre-processing. But anyway, I just did the standard batch pre-processing function in PI. And basically, these are the masters that came out of that. The HI master had a lot of detail in it, and was the images were pretty sharp. The stars were quite small. There must have been a little bit of a problem with the silicon with this for the sulfur 2, because the stars were substantially, probably twice the size that they were in the H alpha. And I must have, the filters are pretty much, you don't have to reset the focus for the 3 narrowband filters that I use. So I was a little bit surprised that the S2 focus was not quite as good as the H alpha. And I'm not real clear on why that happened, but the stars were a little bit oversized in the S2 images. And so then I did some post-processing on it after the pre-processing to enhance the contrast and sharpen up the images. And basically, I just used the histogram transformation in PixInsight. I'm more comfortable with levels and curves in Photoshop. And there's a high-pass filter function which enhances the contrast nicely in Photoshop that I like to use. And for the S2, I did a histogram transformation, levels and curves, just to enhance the contrast. And then to deal with the larger stars and I know you can do this in PixInsight, but I actually used Images Plus to do it. And there's a star size reduction function in Images Plus that lets you knock down the size of the stars. And there's a similar function in PixInsight, which I did not use. And let's see, this is the result. And what I used to bring the two colors together was LRGB combination in PixInsight. And this just kind of shows I used the hydrogen alpha for the luminance, hydrogen alpha for the red, and sulfur for the S2 bands for both the green and the blue. And then this allows you to basically combine the different channels in whatever way you'd like to do. And so this is kind of the basic result that I got. Let's see. I think that's really all the slides I've got. And I'm hoping other members
It's not
have
just a quick suggestion. Craig Krinkwa, who was the developer of Skyhound and specifically Sky Tools, has come out with two different versions of Sky Tools. He's got one for visual use and one for imaging. Terra was used as a test site for Sky Tools for imaging. I haven't implemented or anything along that line, but you might approach Scott, or you might approach Craig and ask him if he'd like to do a presentation on Sky Tools for imaging, because one of the things you just mentioned is what that tool does extremely well. It will analyze an object and tell you the best times and settings to use for various different filters on various different objects. So it tries to normalize your signal to noise ratio across an object. And it will actually say, hey, look, for this object, you should do 2x2 bin for oxygen 3 because for O3, because it's in O3, you don't have much. So why don't we get more by doing some binning and increasing the signal to noise ratio? So you might approach him about that.
I will. I have actually a list of individuals who could give us a talk, and I believe he's on the list. I think, in fact, you suggested it before.
Yeah.
I don't think he's. While I've been doing it, I don't think he's presented, has he?
No, he's presented to us when I was running the AISIG group. He presented to us and was quite. It was quite nice. The basic thing is that when we were doing the beta testing for Sky Tools for imaging, it was the tool itself is amazing. You have a huge amount of data to input. I mean, you got to put in order for it to work. You have to put in everything you know about every piece of gear you got.
Yeah.
But once that's done, picking out objects, especially narrowband, because the narrowband stuff is always pretty tricky. Based on the combination of elements that you're trying to shoot through as far as filters go. It was really handy to say, oh yeah, hey, I need to do O3, and O3 ain't very, it's not very strong. So how do you fix that? So you might want to consider that.
Yeah, I will. I'm certainly going to interrogate the possible speakers, and he's a good one. I did have Sky Tools and used to use it several years ago. But it's before he added some of these new features. I forget what version it was, but it was probably 2 versions ago that I used to use it.
I still use Sky Tools 3 for just for picking various different objects. He's got a very nice graphical interface that shows transits. It shows it gives if you've got the camera stuff plugged in, it certainly gives you very good. It will give you a good approximation of signal to noise ratio based on your camera and your telescope and all that, how many images you need to get over a certain time. And Sky Tools 4 is significantly more dedicated to the imaging platform. Sky Tools 3 was kind of split between the imaging and the visual stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I think what I used was SkyTools 3.
Yeah.
But that's great. And any other suggestions for speakers for the Zooms is really appreciated by anybody. Not so.
Well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Can you do the stuff on a Mac, or do you pretty much need a Windows box to
No,
do a lot
I
of this
do.
post-processing?
I do everything on a Mac.
Okay. Excellent.
So do I.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got two schools here, Mac school and Windows school.
I do it on both.
Actually, if you're Linux, you can. I've dedicated one of my PCs to Linux specifically because PixInsight runs at least 4 times faster on Linux than it does on any other platform. Even if you do benchmarking, by the way, if you haven't done benchmarking in SkyTool or in PixInsight, you may want to do that. That's pretty remarkable as far as going through and figuring out what the best performance of your computer is using the benchmark tool.
Okay, great.
Okay. Let's see. AC, did you have something you wanted to show us today?
Well, this is a California Nebula I just finished up with it's a mosaic of 2 frames put together.
Wow, so
I
yours is
like that
prettier
one.
than mine.
Well, it was a lot more work too.
Now that's the whole thing. That's not just a part of it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Can you share?
And I have the California Nebula too.
Wow, popular item.
I need to call it up. So that's when that's my background on my video right now. And by covering the video camera, you could see the whole picture that way.
Uh-huh.
How does that look?
Are you sharing the screen, or you just got?
No, that's just my background for the video. That's all that is. When I unmute it, it pops up. Now, if I take the little cover off, you can see me. Ah!
Oh yeah. I like the Nebula better. Sorry, AC.
But then you can't see me picking my nose.
Yeah, that's true. So do you want to share your screen?
No.
I had that PixInsight thing set up, so it's going to take a little while to go through it, and where I actually compare stacking from 1 to 15 different stacks and showing the signal noise ratio and using easy suite to do the processing, which is real fast and quick. But I don't think we have time for that today because we're going to quit at 9, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, we can do it another time. That's no problem. Let me ask though, the California Nebula. Did you do oxygen? Did you all three?
Yeah, that's all 3. Oxygen, hydrogen, silicon, and oxygen. That's all that's in there. And that's all processed with the new PixInsight totally. Of course, the letters and whatnot, I do that in Photoshop because it's much easier. And if you really look at it, there's black areas here and black areas here. Actually, the 2 photos are overlapped. Here's one, and here's the other one like that, which I used PixInsight to put those together. And also I did a star reduction on it a little bit, all in PixInsight.
I'd be curious to see what the 3 colors look like before you combined them into this very nice looking image. But
well, they didn't look too bad.
Yeah, even the 03, you got a pretty good signal in 03.
Yeah, but it takes like 10 minutes of exposure for 03 and S2, 500 seconds for H alpha.
Yeah, well, yeah, I ran 10-minute exposures on mine too. But boy, I didn't have much of a signature in 03.
And that using the Paramount mount, the ME2, with no guiding. So not too bad on the star size.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe another time you can show us what you did on the 3, or what the 3 different colors looked like, you know.
Yeah, we can do that. That's not hard to do, but I don't have it set up right now. Well, maybe I can find it, but yeah, maybe.
Frank, you did the California too, right?
Yes.
How
This
does
is
yours look?
Yeah, this is the old view graph that I had earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so this one has, so you can see the whole thing. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a 5-degree field of view, so I can get the whole thing in there.
Right. Yeah.
In this
So
briefing,
this is refractor, right?
Yes, this is the FSQ 106, 106 millimeters f5.
Yeah. Right.
So very wide field of view, and it has a big chip, but still it has what 2 arc seconds per pixel. So detail is pretty good. So and of course it has the 4-element Percival design, really gives sharp detail there, and a big FLI camera, filter wheel on there. And because I'm doing photometry, I don't have RGB filters. I have BVRI filters, and I have the hydrogen, the silicon, oxygen filters. So
those are science filters, basically.
Yeah, for RGB instead, I use the Johnson Cousins filters, BVRI. And for most things we do, the BVR looks pretluminance much like the existing LRGB imaging. So I do pseudo luminance by combining RGB together.
Right. Yeah.
And that's recommended because I'm in Tierra Santa, sort of on the edge of the city with a lot of light pollution still. So getting rid of the luminance filter probably helps me, because I can filter out and just concentrate on RGB and filter out some of the light pollution that way. So that works out well. And yep.
Yeah, that's a real nice image. So anybody else do the California Nebula?
Scott, I've got something I can show real quick.
Good. I was just going to suggest. Go ahead.
Yeah, although knowing that when we did the voting, nobody else is interested in this, so I'll do it quickly. Share the screen. Will this do it?
Yep.
So okay. Yeah, I think this was Adam Block's AOPD picture in December sometime. And I listened to a presentation he gave on how he did it. He was in the cabin, by the way, and controlling the camera remotely. And what he said was, although he doesn't normally do this type of imaging, he said that he masked the foreground and processed the background separately, so he could, what he was trying to do is what he said was to eliminate gradients to give the sky sort of an ethereal distance look. And if you look at the image, I think he did more than that. He clearly did that because with a wide field camera lens, maybe it's 20 millimeters on a full frame, he just can't do a single exposure for this much detail on the sky and still have the foreground. And I'll talk about what I think he did later, but he pretty much admitted that he separated the foreground from the sky in Photoshop. by the way. It's much easier to do in Photoshop. I can't figure out how to do it in PixInsight. So I was wondering if this would be a useful thing, because now let's see if I can call up one of mine. Prepping the shot, secret method. Okay, cropped. Did this get shared?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. Resume share. Resume share. Did it share it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to share screen again.
Restart it maybe.
Here it is. This is the, okay. Okay, now what this is a pretty awful picture with a 16mm camera lens and my ZWO cooled camera out at Sycamore Canyon, and it was just noodling. But you can see what I did. I stacked a whole bunch of 10-second images so that I could get enough detail in the sky. And so it did two things. I got lots of sky glow. And of course, then my horizon line, because you're stacking images taken at different, and you know, my stacking algorithm aligns the stars, but it doesn't care about the foreground, so it blurs it. So I thought, well, what if I did the atom block thing to this? And what you would do is go into Photoshop and use the mask select tool, and you can just paint along this contrasty bottom, and then decide to take either the sky or the lower section and basically null it out, basically make it 100% transparent. And this technique is what people use when they want a better sky in their photographs. Like they got an awful sky, it's just kind of mucky, but they got good foreground objects. So they pick a sky and put it in their picture. So that's basically what I did. I took a single frame of the stack thing and got a nice clean horizon line. And then I did this technique, and here's what I got. I called it radical processing. Now I'm gonna have to do the same thing to fool Zoom into letting me do this. You're not seeing it, are you?
Not yet.
Should have made a slide. Okay, I'm gonna, just a sec. I've got to fight it. It doesn't say okay, I'll share the screen again. Here it comes. Now, well, I don't know. It's fakey, and I don't like fakey pictures, and I don't like too much HDR. But okay, one thing, I got an artifact, but I got a nice clean horizon line. Now,
right, but let me ask, if before the sky near the horizon was very bright, it was much brighter.
Well,
did you move the sky down, or did you?
Oh, absolutely. I move the sky down, because all you have to do is, when you have taken your combined image and copied it and pasted it into your stack in Photoshop, you can do the little, it looks like a big plus sign with pointy arrows at each of the ends. You can grab basically the sky picture and move it up and down in however way you want. So what I realized is I didn't get the ethereal look because the sky glow was still too bad. So you're right, I moved it down until the sky glow was kind of minimized.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it looks good at all, but it's an interesting technique to play with.
Yeah.
And
well, it looks better than the really bright sky that before you moved it down.
Well, that's true. And you can see M31 and you can see the double cluster, and it's not a bad picture. Of course, it doesn't look realistic at all, which is something I'm unhappy with. And of course, the other way you could get kind of that ethereal background would be to take a picture at a higher angle. Now let's see if I can do that. Share screen. See, there you go. Black sky, nice little dinosaur that's highlighted with a, with red LEDs, and you can see Orion and everything. Not tracked or anything like that. All single exposure. Just one exposure. And I really prefer to do that rather than do techniques like the other one. But it's still an interesting thing to play around with.
So how did you illuminate that image with just an LED?
Yeah, what I do, let's see, I can share it again. What I do is I've given up on flashlights and all of that and trying to paint. What I have is an LED panel. They call it low level lighting. So the LED panel is really too bright, but you can change the color temperature of the LED. It's really got two sets of LEDs, and you can choose the blending of the two. And I'll admit the red was a little, this is a little, so I put a red gel over it. And that's a little bit more extreme than what I normally do, by the way. But I thought it kind of, it talked to this mystical separation of foreground and the sky.
Uh-huh.
And of course, let me show one more. When you play with, I've shown this before, and I shouldn't have done that. Well, that's still going to work if I can find the buttons. Share screen, go. You see Bill playing the violin?
Yeah.
Remember, camera lenses and foreground objects, they're still camera lenses. You've got to watch depth of field and all the other things. And I thought I got a real good shot because I wanted him to be about this size in the frame. But I should have done the overlay trick with this one because I didn't have enough depth of field for infinity and him being so close. But he was still happy with the picture. That's a TDS. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Well, let's see. We got a little more time. Anybody else want to share anything with us?
Yeah, sure. Let me put up something here I just got through playing around with. And this was more of an experiment as to what makes the best narrowband stuff. This is 3-year-old data from Tarot that's been that is up on the cloud site. So if anybody wants to use it, you can. But about 3 years ago, we shot 30 hours plus on NGC 6820. So roughly 10 hours a shot on HA. So there's my HA master sub. I assume you guys see that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So there's the HA master sub. There's the S2. So pretty good amount of S2 in there. And again, 03 doesn't have a heck of a lot of data in it. So the game was, okay, what's the best way to combine all this stuff?
And those were all at the same resolution, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't bin or anything?
No. This is all just
Right.
straight stuff. This is, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all just straight running off of ACP saying, hey, put this in. After this, we started, Jeff and I figured out that after doing this, we actually ended up putting more hours into 03 on a lot of objects to be able to get a little bit better signal to noise ratio out of them. So some of the later objects that you'll find up on that, up on the Google Drive, for those that have subscribed to it, you'll find you'll find images that have quite a bit more oxygen in it. But went back and did normalized histograms across all these guys, and ended up with that guy. So that's blending out HAS203. A lot of instances of this particular object are pretty bright and gaudy. My intent was to not make it quite so gaudy, try to highlight with decon some of the elements in here. Especially, you get a lot of nice little blobs and things floating around inside this inside that nebula, so it makes it kind of fun. So anyway, that data is up there for those that are subscribed to the Tarot Google Drive. You can find the master subs up there to go play with. Oddly enough, I tried 4 different combination methods, including the SHO-AIP script, which Rogelio has decided to do away with. I'm not 100% sure why. My understanding is that he decided to kill it and not include it in the latest releases of PixInsight because he doesn't feel it has enough support. And for those that aren't necessarily involved in how PixInsight works, it's open software, so anybody can develop scripts and processes, and if they're supported, Rogelio will put these into the processes under utilities. So there is a script in here that was put in by a group out of France, and it's the SHO AIP script. There's actually 2 or 3 others, and you actually nowadays have to put this in manually. I actually tried using this on this particular image, but oddly enough, this particular script added more noise into the final combination result, although I did use this to create a luminance image. So one of the things that will help smooth out the noise is if you create a pseudo luminance image, and this tool gives you the ability to create a luminance image out of a blended SHO. And the fun part about this is that this gives you the ability to take various different, if I basically do here and I do that and I do this, so there's my masters, I can play around with the amount of data from each one of the channels, and I can create a luminance image, which gives you the ability to get back in, and now you can use the luminance image and do deconvolution on the luminance image to give you better highlights and give you those little details within inside your SHO image or inside your narrowband image. So there's another really cool little tool to play with if you wanted to do it. I actually ended up using a luminance image, and I'll just punch the button here and see if it comes up with one for me. So there's it's going to lock me out. I didn't do the appropriate goodies to it here. Quit. Okay. So there's the appropriate luminance image produced from 3 narrowband images. And this will, again, you can go back in and do your standard processing, your luminance processing on this particular, looks like we lost Scott. This gives you the ability to go in and go utilize utilize your narrowband images to create a pseudo luminance image, and now you can blend this back in under the various different the standard blending programs that are within PixInsight. So anyway, that's something fun you can do. The data, like I said, for those that are subscribed, and if you want to subscribe to and get access to all the past 2 or 3 years of tarot data, just send an invite request to tarot@sdaa.org, and I'll get you subscribed up to that link. Anyway, so that's what it turned out. I'm still tweaking around with it, but that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, I unfortunately, I'll have to go back and watch the recording because my internet dropped out right in the middle of what you were saying. So my only question is, what the hell did you say? So, but I'll go back and read the transcript.
One of the things though, Scott, that I was talking about was being able to, off the SHO AIP script, was to, under multi-channel synthesis, was to create a pseudo-luminance underneath the tool here. So that gives you the ability to go smooth out the image if you want to, and use your three narrowband image masters as masters for creating a luminance. And you can use that tool right here to actually blend how much of one each channel you want to use for your luminance. It's kind of a fun little script to be able to use.
Yeah, I've generally just, because the signal noise is always much better in H alpha, I've just used the H alpha as the luminance, and that seems to work all right. But probably distorts to some extent the content of the image, because what you're emphasizing is the H alpha and in the luminance, and you're not emphasizing the other colors.
Right, and there's details within inside. There's detailing within inside the. There's details within inside the other channels that you'd like to be able to highlight.
Right.
Especially since you have a preponderance of what amounts to be, if you're doing the Hubble palette, a preponderance of green, which also throws off, because you're trying to take out the green. It bloats out your stars, turns them into purples. When you remove the green, you get a blue and a red, turning your stars into purple. So you're trying to remove the purple out as well. So that's one of the reasons I tend to go back and create a little bit more balanced luminance channel, so I can use that to create a little bit more blended stars, remove some of the purple in the stars.
Cool. Well, great. Has anybody else got things they want to share before we wrap up?
Scott, I've got a recommendation.
Okay.
I like the idea of getting Crinklaw back for Sky Tools 4 and all the image analysis and signal to noise work and everything. It'll almost take 2 sessions to do it, because it's a little bit like PixInsight. You know, the GUI is so different than anything we've seen, and some of his approaches are different. And you know, he'll spend a good bit of time twisting the knobs. And you really need to see, what does this thing do? How does it work? And then go into some of these specific signal to noise application and number of exposures that David Wood was talking about.
Yeah.
Because I've done the same thing with him. I've gotten all the way with his presentation, and then you get somewhere deep into the work, and it's like, where am I now?
Yeah. Where did you see his presentation?
Well, I was one of the beta testers. And
oh, you're a beta tester. Huh?
And remember, he came to one of the AISIG meetings and gave us an introduction. He was there in person once, and he did something remotely with us once too. He's from San Diego originally, went to San Diego State. So he'll be glad to do it, I'm sure.
That was when Dave was running the ASICs, right?
I think so.
I don't think, yeah, right. Okay. Well, he will be top of the list for me to contact and see if I can get a commitment out of him to do a session, or maybe 2.
Because it is, I would recommend 2, because it's interesting software, and I tried to apply it for imaging on the Palomar 60-inch telescope, because who knows how to work images with our type of equipment on that kind of telescope. And didn't get far enough, and so I had to guess anyway.
Well, I've always guessed, I'm afraid. I'm not as analytic. I haven't been as analytic as I should be. So, but there's a definite right way to do this. Everybody kind of wings it and does their own thing, but in terms of actually optimizing the signal to noise and quality of the images, I'm sure there are better ways to do it rather than just winging it. So
I have another one to show you here. This is at the north rim of the Grand Canyon, 20-second shot with a Canon D5.
Can you,
And
can
you
you
guess that's the Milky Way.
or AC? We see the little picture. We want to see the big picture.
Well, didn't it show up? There it goes.
Yeah, right. As a background, but
Share.
can you share the screen and give us the whole thing?
Hey, AC, when you share it, did you play with the color temperature? I will adjust mine to about 4,000 degrees. Adjust the camera raw image. So the background sky looks good.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. I just barely did any processing on it at all.
So tell us the camera again. AC?
Yeah, Canon D5.
D5. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Let's see if I
5D
can
Mark
get
I.
this to work. Okay, share screen. Let's see if I can call it up. I don't see it. Just wait. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
It's getting there. Should come up.
Yeah, we see your screen now.
Yeah. Still there?
Yeah.
Oh, that came up in Fix Insight. Let me.
But if you
Too many buttons.
So what we see is your.
There you go.
Ooh.
Wow, I don't know how you did that.
You've got two things. You've got your file manager and Fix Insight overlaid.
Right.
All kinds of stuff.
I think you want to share a different screen.
Well, you got Fix Insight now. You got Fix Insight in there, right?
No, we've got you've got Fix Insight.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Stop share. Share screen. This one. There you go. You happy now?
There
we really
go. There. Now we're happy. Now we're happy campers. Yeah.
That's just a single shot.
And the greenness is really just the atmosphere, isn't it? I mean, that's just the sky.
Yeah, that's what it's green. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but
well, that's just nature.
Yeah, it's called oxygen. Anyway, that's just a single shot. I did a time delay of this too, which I've shown at a couple of the meetings.
Well, and now that you got, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now that you got Fix Insight up on the screen, can you show that California nebula?
Well, I can show you the individual frames. Here's hydrogen alpha, S2 and O3, a little bit of O3 in there. I should have exposed that.
The O3 is on the left, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much.
That's about what I got.
That's just, half of it. And then I put the two together.
So
other than,
oh, so you made a mosaic out of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've only got like two degrees, plus or minus 2 degrees on my square frame.
Yeah.
But that's your sensor than some people, right, Frank?
Hey, Scott or AC, did you guys try linear fit before you combined?
Did what?
Did you guys do linear fit before you combine your HA, S2, and RG and
No, I used star. Oh, no, I just put them together and.
So on your California nebula,
yeah.
Before you combined, did you try a linear fit? Did you apply linear fit using one of your images as a reference, did you apply a linear fit to either one of those to your other images to balance them?
Well, I used batch processing, the weighted batch processing, which kind of does the whole damn thing for you.
Not quite, because what has to happen is that before, the batch for the weighted batch preprocessing will go in and manipulate all of your stuff, and it will actually pick, if you have it down there where it says auto select for best reference frame, that creates your submasters. But when you go to combine your submasters, because they're so, if you will, content out of balance, one of the tricks you can do to try to help that is try to help the unbalanced nature between HAS2 and O3 is to apply a linear fit.
Yeah, I did not do that. Actually, the sulfur is remarkably strong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so, I was only dealing with the two colors. So I did not try to compensate for the.
Yeah, linear fit seems to work pretty well for that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
No, I haven't done that, but you can see how my stars are when I blow it up. So, and they do stack pretty well when you put them all together. So we let it run like that, and that's without guiding. Terrible mount.
What band is on the right?
That's S2.
Yeah, you could have done some noise reduction there.
Yeah.
I did that. Well, I probably did before I combined them anyway, but yeah. So yeah, you can play all kinds of games like that. And I was going to demonstrate that tonight, but we're out of time by using the AISIG processing suite, which works really, really well, even in star reduction and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we could do a star reduction on this one or a noise reduction if you wanted to, but we're kind of out of time.
Yeah, it is. It's 9 o'clock, and it's past some of our bedtimes, and we need to move on.
Scott, one last share here, just because somebody bought new gear.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you buy new gear, it snows up at TDS.
Who's your friend?
Oh, that's your dog.
That would be my German Shepherd, who decided the reason I drove out to TDS is I could lock the gates and turn her loose. She likes running in the snow.
Uh-huh. And when was that taken?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Uh-huh.
Yep. So that was 4 to 6 inches on the ground at TDS.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting though is that there are rabbits right there.
Mm-hmm.
And there are really big feet there.
Yeah.
I have no idea what those really big feet are. They're neither mine or my dog's. So something else is up at TDS wandering around in the snow that's got remarkably big feet.
Maybe you don't want to know.
Well, and there's more big feet.
Uh-huh.
So there's the rabbits and there's the big feet going, that's very interesting. Anyway,
yeah.
So yes,
cool.
It was very snowy at our playground yesterday.
Uh-huh. And how's Taro? Is it, did you get new batteries into it and stuff?
Yeah, new batteries are in. Yeah.
Cool.
So yes, it's operational, all that fun stuff. Still got a wet floor, but it's operational.
Yeah. Well, now that I got the meeting out of the way, I'll get back and do that, process that EXO that we did a couple, 2 weeks ago, I guess.
So anyway, last share.
Yeah.
Somebody buys new gear and it snows at TDS.
Okay, well, has anybody else got anything they want to do? Say, show? Okay, well, and I guess that's about the end of the meeting. It's been real, and we'll do it again next month.
Night all.
See ya.
Bye-bye.